Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the The Irish Fan podcast, where I am not an Irish fan. I am the Irish fan. My name is Danny. How are you? Thank you so much for tuning in to this very small and humble podcast, but something that I believe in and something that I love doing, which is talking Notre Dame football and college football, how it pertains to Notre Dame and where Notre Dame is headed as a program. This is going to be a very 30,000 foot view podcast. It has been from day one. It's going to be for as long as I am doing this podcast. So we're going to talk a little bit about 30,000 foot view Notre Dame football program right now, because we're 0-2. We're winless right now, and I don't think anybody anticipated that. There's a lot of people who thought we would go 1-1. There's a lot of people who thought we would be 2-0. I don't think anybody, especially me. I mean, there's always a possibility, of course. This is college football, and there's no unbeatable teams. But there's not very many people, including myself, that thought we would be 0-2. Not just 0-2, but a very, very transgressive 0-2. We have gotten worse when we at areas where we thought not only were we great, but we were going to be greater. And I use those words specifically, great and greater, because we had elite secondary play. We had an elite defense, top 5 national championship competing level defense. And not only do we not have that, we have some of the worst Notre Dame football, defensive football, since the BVGVs era of 2016. So the worst defensive football in almost a decade. That's very concerning. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into the Purdue game a little bit. I'll give a game prediction. But before I get into that, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click the notification bell so that every time I post a podcast, you guys will be able to see that your boy has stuff to say. Look, where we're at as a program, this is something that's very hard to diagnose, at least right now, because we just played for a national championship. So you'd think that we were in a very healthy program. We have one of the best recruiting classes in the country this year. We have one of the best recruiting classes in the Marcus Freeman era, and one of the best recruiting classes probably in the last 10 years. Having that said, Marcus Freeman is doing some very concerning things. So let's start there. We talked about on the last podcast. I asked the big question as to the big systemic defensive issues for this program right now, and the biggest question I asked was why. The why is to changing your defensive philosophy. Okay, we last year under last 3 years. What am I saying? The last 4 years, because Marcus Freeman was this kind of a coach when he was the defensive coordinator under Brian Kelly. We went from a style of a 4-down lineman, 2 linebackers with maybe a linebacker hybrid, which we call a rover, or a 5th cornerback or a 5th safety on the field, a 4-2-5 style attacking man coverage defense. That's what we have been. That's what we were the previous 4 seasons up until now. And that's how we recruited. That's how we have coached and developed our players. Is cornerbacks are going to be on an island. The safeties are either going to come down, support the run, or support the cornerbacks in man. And the defensive line, and the linebackers are going to get after the quarterback. That's been our philosophy. That's how Al Golden called it last year, and that's what made us elite. For some reason, Marcus Freeman decided to completely change that philosophy and go to his zone coverage. Why he did this, I don't know. I don't know. And nobody does, because he's never given an exact explanation. This is concerning. This is a very concerning thing for me. This is probably the biggest concerning thing for me. And I talked about it last podcast, and I talked about it before. My biggest criticism for Marcus Freeman coming into this program is that he's an Ohio State guy. And that we've seen some benefits of that, and we are now starting to see the deep concerns for that as well. Why this Chris Ash hire? Why the change in philosophy? Coaches can sometimes get a little bit ahead of their skis. They're trying to stay on the cutting edge. They're trying to stay above the game. They're trying to stay above the rim, so to speak. They're trying to find different things to implement that'll be revolutionary, or that'll keep their team with some kind of an edge. And that's very normal. That's something that coaches do all the time. And the great coaches do that successfully. Nick Saban did that in the middle of his career. He started out, he won a couple of national championships off of your typical 4-3 style, zone coverage, Tampa 2 coverage defense. He recruited the elite players for that, and then coached for supreme execution. And then on offense was a very run heavy, big elite style running backs with game managing quarterbacks who could throw it over the top of the opposing defense. And he won several national championships from that. He then had to evolve because the game evolved. The game evolved from a typical run style, zone coverage defense, run style offense, to spread offense, which means you now have to counter that on defense with a spread style coverage defense, which is man coverage, 4-2-5 style defense. And he did that successfully because the game evolved. He kind of had to do that. And you saw others coaches coach and evolve in that to that extent as well. Kirby Smart being one of them. Any team that has won a national championship within the last 10 years, those coaches and those teams and those programs were successful at recruiting and coaching some kind of transition because the game has transitioned. Now, I have not seen any kind of transition back to what we saw in the late 2000s, early 2010s. You know, what I previously just mentioned. Zone style, Tampa 2 style, 4-3 style defenses. Because I have not seen any offenses transition away from spread pro style offenses. You haven't seen that transition. So why is Freeman transitioning back to a zone style coverage defense? Just why? I don't see it, and I haven't seen it, and Marcus Freeman has given zero explanations. And the only thing he said is it's not system or essentially it's not the coaching, it's the execution. And I beg to differ, Coach. If they're not executing, you're not coaching it right. But even if that were true, even if Marcus Freeman said that, okay, fine, that's let's just say that's true, that the players they're just not getting it, they're not executing it well. You know, let's just pretend that that's the reason. Okay. Why did you make the transition? Why is there this transition from let's go? You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater for no reason. You're completely. I could understand this kind of change if you had recruited for the last 2 or 3 years for this change, and you just had a bunch of guys go to the NFL or a bunch of guys graduate, and you're completely replacing your defense from last year. The only problem is that you're not. You're not replacing your entire defense. You've got essentially the same players, minus Riley Mills and Xavier Watts. You know, Benjamin Morrison, he didn't play all last season since Louisville. So the secondary that you have is the secondary that you've always had for the last 4 seasons, essentially. And I'm not saying that the players have been there, but the coaching and the scheme and it's all been the same. So why are you changing it? It doesn't make any sense to me. That's very concerning, and I don't know why. And again, we're fed. We are mushrooms. We are fed crap. We are kept in the dark. So we have to come up with some kind of explanation. And my explanation is someone within his Ohio State sphere, because he hired Chris Ash, who's got Ohio State backgrounds, from Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, that whole coaching tree. Marcus Freeman comes from that. And someone in that tree told him it was a good idea to hire Chris Ash and move to this style. That's the only thing I can think of. I cannot imagine a coach going, man, we were a quarterback position away from winning a national championship. Just think about that for a second, Irish fans. We were a good quarterback away from winning a national championship. It's not a knock on Riley Leonard. He did what he could with the tools that he has. So he's a great kid. He's a supreme athlete. He just wasn't a quarterback. And we were that position away from winning a national championship. It still blows me away. I still can't believe that we were that close. But I digress. So your move from there is, let's change everything. let's just change what we're doing. And we're not changing your philosophy. We're not changing. I'm done with. I am done with coach speak. I'm just done. I need to see stuff on the field. That's it. That's all we have. Coach Freeman. That's all we have. That's all we got. That all we can see is what we see on the field. We're not at practice. Okay? And at best we can get a couple of practice clips of some guys warming up. Okay? Or we can listen to one of our Notre Dame pundits give the wrong analysis about our defense and our offense, and then we go see it on the field and we're going, what the heck did you guys see over the offseason? So that's all we got. That's all we got. And what we have on the field is failure. We're 0-2. We have an offensive line that is teetering on being in shambles. They played a little bit better against Texas A&M, but that's only because they didn't play as good of a defensive line as they did against Miami. And they had 2 weeks to prepare. Something they're not going to have against Purdue this weekend. So you have an offensive line that's this close to being completely in shambles. You have a defense that is in shambles. A whole defense. Defensive line, there's no pass rush. Linebackers don't know where they're going. They're not attacking the ball. Cornerbacks the secondary has zero clue how to cover a zone. How to cover zone. Zero clue. If you watch any kind of game film, and just watch for 10 minutes. Look, and I'm gonna give another website a plug here. If you want to get a good football in-game analysis and watch plays, go get a subscription to Irish Breakdown. Brian Driscoll and company over there, they're really good at showing you, hey, look, this is how this play starts. This is what this guy is seeing. He should be doing this. They're really, really good at that. And then you can actually see on the field the X's and O's and the difference between the Jimmies and the Joes. You can see it. They do it well, and I highly recommend it. I watched some of that, and these guys they don't. This isn't a buy. This isn't like, oh, I really like Brian Driscoll, so I'm happy. So he's in my head now, and I'm just regurgitating his analysis. No, I know enough football to be able to see what's bad and what's good. That's all you need to do as a fan. What's bad and what's good, and what you're seeing is a whole lot of bad. A whole lot of bad. This is clearly coaching. This is clearly the inability to coach a style to kids who have been under a completely different style, and they probably are asking the same thing. Coach, why are we doing this? Why can't we just go back to doing what we were doing before, which is good? Not just good, but great. So, again, with what we see on the field, the bad, with the combination of the hire of Chris Ash, who's an Ohio State guy, and Marcus Freeman being an Ohio State guy, and somebody reaching out to him and convincing him maybe this is a favor. I don't know. I don't know. That's total speculation. That's just me. So don't go running with that. But to me, it feels like that's what it feels like to me is he is doing someone a favor within the Ohio State sphere. Now, if that's not the case, there's good news. I bring news of glad tidings and good joy. He can correct this. With the setup of the college football playoff and how college football works now, we're actually still not out of the playoff. We had to win 10 games in a row last year to make the playoff, and we did it. This year, we got to do the same thing. We got to rattle off 10 in a row to be able to make the playoff. So our goals are relatively intact. We'll need some help, but guys, I'm here to tell you that I think we're going to get it. because college football is just different. There is no unbeatable team. The 2020 Bamas, the 2018 Clemsons, the 24, they're just gone. They're just those teams are gone. They don't exist anymore. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of really good teams. There are plenty of very good teams, but there just aren't. There's those elite, heavy NFL style teams. They're just not there anymore. Even Ohio State's team last year lost to a mediocre Michigan team at home. There's no unbeatable team. So you're going to have a lot of one-loss teams. You're going to have a few two-loss teams in the playoff. You just are. And if Notre Dame is one of a handful of two-loss teams right there at the end, they will make the playoff because the college football wants Notre Dame in the playoff. That's just how it is. If you're a Boise fan, if you're a Group of Five fan, I'm sorry, that's just how it is. The college football is not set up for you. It is set up for the big-time D1 programs that draw the eyeballs. That's just how it is. And you can say, man, well, then just ruins the sport. I don't want to watch it anymore. Okay, bye. But don't watch it anymore. You're a grown person. You're capable of making your own decisions, so just don't watch it anymore. So Notre Dame can rattle off 10 in a row. They can win the national. They can go to the playoff, which means they're still in contention for a national championship. Do I think they're going to win one? No, I'm not making a prediction. I'm not being one of those stupid fans that thinks we can still win a national championship. I am just saying the possibility is still there, which means the possibility and the goal of winning a national championship is still alive. One more loss and that's it. It's done. Pack the season in, and you might as well. You basically are going to have, however many games you have left between that loss and the end of the season for practice for next season. That's what college football has become. You don't make the playoff, well, then you're just going to be one of those teams that has a bunch of practice games until next season. So our goal is still intact. However, we have to rattle off 10 in a row. Marcus Freeman can make changes. He can absolutely make some changes. And here's what he needs to do. Firing Chris Ash is just it's not going to happen. Not unless we lose. If we lose to Purdue this weekend, yes. Fire, get rid of him, and then Marcus Freeman, you call the plays the rest of the season on defense. That's it. You can't, so other than that, so let's say I'm assuming we're going to win. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to the game prediction in just a second, but let's just assume we're going to beat Purdue. Going forward, what Marcus Freeman needs to do is get back to the style and the basics of the style of what you've been doing the last 4 years. Okay? You're going to tell these guys, you're going to tell Chris Ash, if you want him still calling plays, you're going to tell him, I want you to call plays that they know what they're doing. Okay? They're going to be in the right position, and the only way that the other guy is going to make the catch is if he's just makes a sick catch like Chris Daniels did in Miami. You're going to call plays like that. Okay, that's how you're going to call your defense. You're not gonna play install while you're against Texas A&M and Miami, against your two biggest opponents in the entire season. We're done playing install. Okay, you're calling what these guys know, and that's just it. Period. End of discussion. Because these guys, again, watch the Texas A&M game again. These guys aren't just the quarterback for Texas A&M. He was throwing darts because these guys were open by 10 yards. They weren't open. They were wide open, which means there's missed assignments, which means guys don't know what they're doing. So that's got to be done. That's failure. If you can't count on your defense to hold the opposing offense to 24 points or less, that's a fail. That's not a winning recipe. That's not championship football. So you're telling Chris Ash, call these plays, this is what they know, and that's it. Period. End of discussion. Let them now take the field. Let them cover these wide receivers. Let them be in the right position. Let the linebackers go after the ball. Okay? Period. End of discussion. Or Marcus Freeman, you're calling the plays from now on as a head coach. You made this decision, you made this bed, and now you have to fix it because you're the head coach. And then after the season, regardless of what happens, then you fire Chris Ash. And to me, that's what I don't care if we win 10 in a row. That's what has to happen. Because I have no faith in this defense anymore. I have zero. I have zero faith in Chris Ash. It's completely gone. I need to see it on the field. Because here's the thing, and again, I'll get into this a little bit when I give the Purdue prediction. We could beat Purdue this weekend. We could rattle off 10 games in a row and not improve at all. Because the next 10 opponents on paper are not better than you. On paper, the first 2 opponents really weren't even better than you. We should have won both of those games. But we had guys in the wrong position. There were opportunities that we did not take advantage of. They were coached poorly, so we lost the game. Both of them. That's why we lost. On paper, we should have won. And now on paper, again, we can win every game the rest of the season without any improvement whatsoever, just because our dudes are better than the other team's dudes. So if that's what we see, and then we get blown out in the first round of the playoff, then bye Chris Ash. We had a 10-3 season. I don't care. Fail. I already don't like it. I've seen enough. I'm good. Let's move on. That's option number 2. And then obviously option number 3 is to actually fire him now. That's the only other option. Which again, I've already got into. We're not gonna do that unless we lose to Purdue this weekend. So that's what Freeman needs to do as far as the defense goes going forward. What the direction looks like of this program right now, it's still murky. It's still, I still can't tell because Freeman is making a lot of mistakes that we saw under Kelly. Okay, I don't need you throwing the players under the bus to defend the coaches, and we've already seen that, Coach. We've already seen it. Okay, we spent 12 seasons with a guy who is a total prick, and all he did was bash the players and defend his coaches to the point where he was willing to go 4-8. You can't do that. And I guarantee, I don't care how charismatic you think you are. I don't care how good looking you are. These kids don't care. They don't care if you are putting them out of position, if you're setting them up for failure, and if you're defending guys who don't believe in them, they will cease to believe in you. I guarantee it. And you will lose your team. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at Florida State last year. There's no reason that team ever should go 2-10. Okay? Zero reason. They had plenty of talent. The head coach failed his team. Now I don't watch those games. I could care less about the Florida State football program. But that's clear. That's clear. You don't have to be a genius to understand that the head coach just lost his team for whatever reason. I don't know the reasons. He did. He just did. And I can tell you right now that knowing this program, knowing this football team, knowing Notre Dame, knowing some of these players, you can lose this team. You can, and you will, if you don't start doing the right things. Defensively, I've already talked about it. Offensively, let your dogs eat. Okay? Let your 2 unbelievable running backs get the football. Put the best 5 guys on the field on your offensive line. Okay? If it's Sullivan Absher, then it's Sullivan Absher. If it's Anthony Knapp, it's Anthony Knapp, but then you got to really, really evaluate. If that's just how it is, fine. Then you need to reevaluate your offensive line coach at the end of the year. Because we have guards playing tackle and tackles playing guard. So, that's what you got to do. That's how you right the ship. Game prediction. This is so hard. This is just so hard. Again, on paper, we should win this game by 4 touchdowns. This should not be close. It should be over by halftime, and we should see some Kenny Minchie, which will be interesting. But I have no idea. Tim O'Malley for Irish Illustrated back in 2016, he used to do all of his when we had Brian Van Gorder and the BBGBs playing on the football field, he used to start every game prediction like this. Okay, you have a living, breathing, alive quarterback. So you start there. You start with 3 touchdowns because any living, breathing, alive Division I quarterback can score 3 touchdowns on this defense. And then from there, he kind of played with if there was going to be an interception or if there's going to be a fumble or how good the running game was or whatever, and that's how he would give his prediction. I'm kind of the same way. I'm kind of the same way right now because I have no idea what to expect from this defense. That defense, it didn't have the 2016 BBGBs. They didn't have nearly the amount of talent that this team has, but they had enough to not be that bad. Like they were just coached so poorly, just so poorly. Anyway, this team is coached very poorly. So we have a Division I alive quarterback. I'm going to give him 2 touchdowns. Okay, that's 14 points. I'm giving Purdue at least 14 points. I'm going to say that because I believe in CJ Carr. I love the kid. I think he is the quarterback of the now and the future. And he is an actual quarterback, and he's going to be great. But he's still learning, and which means there's a turnover. And chances are they're going to get at least 3 points. So let's say that the team gets just at least 3 points. They would probably get 7 because our defense is that bad. Let's just say they get 3, so that's 17 points. And then our defense is actually going to cause some kind of big play by a running back or a wide receiver. So that's another additional 7 points. So I'm going to give another touchdown to Purdue, making it 24 points. So they're scoring at least 24 points, Purdue. Can our offense score 25 or more points against Purdue to win the game? The answer is yes. So I'm picking Notre Dame to win. How much Notre Dame is going to score? CJ Carr giving up an interception that's going to lead to points. I'm going to say he's going to do at least 250 yards passing and 2 touchdowns passing, and we're going to have 2 touchdowns between Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. So that's 4 touchdowns. That's 28 points. And then I'm going to say our offense between our special teams and our defense coming up with some kind of turnover, we'll get an additional 7 points. So that's 35. So I'm going to go 35-24 Notre Dame in a very lackluster style of win. And the reason why I'm going there is as follows. And I'm going to close with this. All any Irish fan has to pay attention to is this. The program, how you can tell where the program is going is one of 3 ways. First, we lose. We lose to Purdue this weekend. It's no different than losing to NIU. It's the failure of it's program failure, which means it's on the head coach. Or you're 0-3. You've lost 2 games that you should have won. You lost to a team that you should beat by 5 touchdowns, and that's program failure. That's on the head coach. Would he get fired? No, he would not get fired. But the season is over, and you're sitting here hoping, man, I hope that we win, 5 or 6 games. That's where you're headed, and then from there, Marcus Freeman, in order to keep his job, is going to have to completely rehaul the entire team, top to bottom, nuts to bolts, all of it, and that's bad. Nobody wants that, but that's option number 1, and it's and prior to the last couple of games, I would not even breathe this into existence. But since we have seen such bad defensive play, you have to. It's a possibility. Purdue's a little bit improved. They're still not very good, but they are improved. Which there's always the possibility that they could upset us. So if we lose, program failure, complete and total rehaul, and it's going to be a long season. That's number 1. Number 2, we win kind of lackluster, which that's what I predicted, and there's not going to be really any one way or the other. We're going to be lukewarm, and it's going to just be stale in the mouths of Irish fans, and I think we're going to end up with a 9-4, maybe a 10-3 style of season. which again, it doesn't move the needle. It's just like here's another ho-hum Notre Dame football program season, and yay. And that's what I predict. That's what I think the season's going to be until I'm seen otherwise. And then number 3, we blow them out. Whatever the score looks like, it's an easy game. We have Kenny Minchie coming in midway through the third quarter or at the start of the second half or something like that. We just blow them out, and it's not even close. There's only one scenario that you can be like, yep, I know exactly where they're going, and that's the worst one. The other 2 is just I have no idea. Because this Purdue football team is coming off one of their worst seasons in program history, and they're a little improved, but they're still not great. We could win this game 77-0, and it's still not going to tell us much. That would be a step in the right direction. That's the one thing. If you see a beatdown tomorrow, the one thing that it can tell you is that these guys are still emotionally invested. That's the one thing it's going to tell you. That they still, for some degree, believe in Marcus Freeman's program, believe in his message, and haven't abandoned him. So a beatdown will at least tell you that. It's not going to predict if we're going to win the national championship or go to the playoff or any of that. So I want everyone to put that completely out of your mind because it's not predictable at this point. But a beatdown would at least tell you, okay, they're still in this. They're still here. Guys, I'm still here. I haven't left you, and I'm going to give you my all. So that's it. Just one of those 3 scenarios. I have no other basis of being able to predict this game or how the season's going or how this program is. Because everything you hear out of the program could be at best rumors, and at worst, it's Armageddon out there. Because I'm hearing a lot of chatter that's not good. A lot. I won't speak it into existence on my channel because they're mostly rumors. But man, you're hearing a lot of things that sound bad, that sound 2016, 2007-esque, and that is not good, especially considering where we have been the last decade. I mean, that 2016 team was the most frustrating team that I've ever seen. At least the 2007 team that went 3-9, they weren't good because they didn't have players. Like, we were top heavy with some pretty talented 5-stars with Michael Floyd and Golden Tate and Jimmy Clausen, but they were freshmen. They were true freshmen. I don't even think Michael Floyd was on the team, but that team at least had an excuse. They sucked because they didn't have any people. The 2016 team, they sucked because the coach is completely checked out. Brian Kelly, that he lost it. Completely lost it. He did not. I mean, he looked like he didn't even want to be a head coach anymore, let alone head coach for Notre Dame. And he allowed one of the worst coaches I have ever seen in my entire life, probably the worst coach I've ever heard of in my whole life, coach his defense for 3 seasons. 3. So anything's possible. These guys live in an echo chamber. They don't listen to people like me. I'm not saying he needs to listen to the D-Irish Fan podcast. I mean, that'd be awesome. But they don't listen to people like me because they don't want to. And because it's hard to self-account. It's hard to self-govern. Only men can do that. Only real men can do that. I don't want to get too philosophical, but I digress. He needs to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror. What am I doing wrong? How do I need to fix this? And if he's answering those questions, you know what? I'm not doing anything wrong. You know what? We just need to coach, or we need to make these players do better, or whatever. If he's doing stuff like that, team's gone. It's gone, and we're looking at a very long and hard season. So I hope that doesn't happen. That's my prediction. That's where I think this team is going to go, which is a big fat who knows. I love you guys. We'll see you after the Purdue game. I'm gonna record an immediate thought, and I'll give you my answer to. We'll see an answer to one of the previous 3 outcomes that I predicted. So until then, peace out. I love you. Go Irish.